that were punctual. I mean, excellent. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone, for being here today in this Business Integrity Europe Representatives session. So, as you might know or not, there are several sessions taking place throughout the year based on hosting of TI chapters from Sweden, from Spain, from Italy, and France, and others. So this month, it fell upon us to organize this session. And the first idea was when I was reading the EU barometer and the trust between the enterprises, the people, the everyday participants, the private and the public sector, was very low in terms of trust between this triangle, let's say, of enterprises, of the public sector, of academicians, and the public. So when it comes to more than 80% of mistrust between institutions and the others, so there is something that is not going right well. And the same case is taking place all around Europe. It's happening all around Europe. So I thought of inviting professors or experts from the Greek diaspora that they are not based in Greece to share their option about how they receive all this info, how they work abroad, what are the insights that they can share, their view on the things, and what are the challenges and solutions that they recommend based on what info they are receiving and what they are teaching, because they are all part of the Greek academia and diaspora. So with no further delay, I will move to our first speaker, Dr. Emmανουήλ Αυγερινός, who Manos. Is
yes.
Here, right?
Hello,
yes.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, thanks. So, sorry, just to be sure. So, Emmανουήλ Αυγερινός is an associate professor of decision sciences in the operations and technology area of IE University in Spain. He was voted as top 40 under 40 business school professors by Poet and Quants. And today we agreed that he will share his insights regarding the role of data analytics in dealing with corruption and the case of the Arachne in the EU. Manos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Angelos. I assume you can hear me, right? Everybody cannot? Perfect. So thank you for inviting me to this very interesting session, and thank you for attending also this interesting session. I'll talk a little bit about some common techniques, the two most common techniques that are being used currently in data analytics when it comes to fraud detection. And then I will conclude my short talk with Arachne, a tool that is used from the European Union and actually has become a matter of discussion nowadays in Greece. And I will reveal the reason at the end of my short talk, and this is how I'm going to conclude my short talk. So first of all, I will focus mostly on public procurement. And why? Because, well, it is the most corrupted sector when it comes to public spending. It accounts for 12% of the global GDP. GDP. And according to studies, on average, 20 to 25% of all contracts are lost because of corruption in public procurement. Now, with the adoption of electronic procurement systems, many databases have become available, and there have been many studies lately regarding data analytics and fraud detection in public procurement. And the most common ones are random forest techniques and clustering, community creation. When it comes to random forest techniques, the idea is that it's basically a machine learning model a machine learning tool that every model is a decision tree. So you go one way or the other as you continue going from the left to the right. The idea behind it is that a single tree cannot be correct, but if you combine many trees at the same time, and the tool is learning and practicing within all the available data set, at the end there's a high chance that you will be able to detect a fraudulent transaction. It is very useful when it comes to noisy environment, and the past studies have shown that it is very efficient when it comes to flagging irregular transactions. Yeah, sorry for that. It's very efficient when it comes to flagging irregular transactions and identifying cartel transactions. So the random forest technique is really good when it comes to identify a specific group of people or companies, in our case, that tend to interact a lot and have many transactions with any government. The second, more efficient technique is related to network designing and more specifically to clustering, or as we call it, community detection with labeled data. Now, this is very simple. It's working the following way. Basically, clustering is formed when the similarity between two nodes is very high. They are put in the same community, or they are separated in different communities if the similarity is below a specific threshold defined by the algorithm. Then some centrality measures are actually calculated using the prominence, the status, the prestige, the visibility of every actor or every node in the network. And that can actually often explain the behavior in the network. Using these centrality measures, many scholars were able to identify the most central, active, and influential players who might also be the most fraudulent one, the most fraudulent connections. So these two techniques are the ones that are commonly used nowadays, which brings us to our beloved European tool called Arachne. So first of all, the name Arachne comes from the Greek word which means spider. So the idea behind the name is that, you know, a fraudulent transaction will be caught in the web of spider, in the web of Arachne. I guess that was the whole point of the name. It started developing back in 2009, and nowadays it has more than 3,500 users. It has been used in almost all European Union countries, and there have been detected more than 2,000 cases of fraud. It has been used in more than 2 million operations, including checking more than 210 million companies and 110 individuals that are behind those companies. Essentially, Arachne is an integrated tool for data mining and data enrichment that aim to support managing authorities in their administrative controls and management checks for potential fraud cases. It is a high risk scoring tool, that eventually will generate more than 100 risk indicators sorted in different specific categories that will help the managing authorities to prevent and detect errors and irregularities among projects, beneficiaries, contracts, and contractors. So the main users are managing authorities. Basically, all the countries of the European Union can use Arachne for free. It is free of charge for the countries. The paying agencies in the member states, certifying authorities, audit authorities, and any intermediate body that could actually check any transaction. It has been used in many cases, like in the Common Agricultural Policy, in the Resilience and Recovery Facility, even in the Brexit Adjustment Reserve. Lately, it has been extended to the Maritime and Fishery Fund, in the Asylum and Migration Integration Fund, and in many, many other sectors. Essentially, what it does, it can optimize the human resource capacity of the user because it allows on-the-spot verification and desk reviews. It offers the user increased effectiveness and efficiency of the management of verification over time. It prevents irregularities and therefore results in lower error rates. And finally, which is interesting for us, it puts in place a very effective anti-fraud measure that can be used by any user with the tool. The input data, this is how it's working basically. The user inputs some data, some internal and some external ones. The internal ones come from three sources. The first one is basically all the data available from the local authority that is using Arachne. Basically, Arachne is is put, let's say, is installed in the local computerized system, and basically it draws data from the user from the local authority that is using Arachne. The other two internal databases come from the European Union, and they are data that are also publicly available and allows users to reach for beneficiaries and final recipients of European Union funds. The external data is bought by the Commission service from two external data providers, and the first database contains financial data as well as information about shareholders, subsidiaries, official representatives of more than 400 million companies. And the second external database is composed of a list of politically exposed persons, sanction list, informant list, and our adverse media list. And all these, of course, they respect ChatGPT. Essentially, the tool is working in two project phases, during the selection approval and during the implementation of the project. During the selection approval, the tool checks the admissibility. So if there's a probability of bankruptcy for the beneficiary, if the beneficiary is convicted for any crime or for tax evasion, if there's any conflict of interest, so maybe the same company is working with a direct competitor, so that will be flagged. And also, it identifies other projects from companies that the beneficiary belongs to in order to see that maybe, there's a cartel functioning around this project compared to past projects that are in the same sector. During the implementation, the most important part is the project risk monitoring, in which Arachne will actually develop 103 risk indicators with 0 to 50 score for the projects regarding 7 categories: procurement, contract management, eligibility, performance, concentration, reasonability, and reputation and fraud. All these indicators are refreshed weekly, and it's up to the user to decide which of those he or she is going to check. Now, the second part is eligibility. During the implementation of the project, Arachne will check if all the expenses declared by the beneficiary comply with the laws of the local country and of the European Union. And if they don't, it will raise a flag to the user and say, hey, this expense doesn't comply with it, so maybe you should have a look at it. The third one is public procurement. Whenever there is an irregular amount of contract or a very high or a very expensive contract compared to other similar projects for the same vector awarded, from the same sector awarded, then again, Arachne will raise a flag to the user and say, hey, this transaction seems a bit suspicious, so maybe it's better to have a look at it. The fourth one is performance indicators. During the implementation of the project, Arachne will check weekly if the deliverables have been successfully received and if there are other irregular delays that will tell the user, you know what, this is going really bad, maybe you should push it a little bit, maybe you should check what's happening. And finally, Arachne will take the concentration of the beneficiary, whether an entity is acting a beneficiary for multiple projects or even in the same, in different sub-projects of the same mega project. For example, flagging the risk of double financing. And again, we'll tell the user, we'll alert the user that this might be something worth checking. So essentially, the Arachne's risk scoring tool will alert the program authorities in identifying the most risky projects, operation, contracts, contractors, final recipients, beneficiaries, and help basically to concentrate their administrative capacity for verification. And also it will flag the most suspicious ones. And then it's up to the user to check whether, there is a case of fraud here. So as you can understand, in order for Arachne to be successful, it needs to have a successful collaboration from the user too, okay? And as I told you in the beginning, Arachne had become a topic of discussion nowadays in Greece. Why? Well, I think you have all heard the scandal of OPKP in Greece nowadays. OPKP is the Greek organization for awarding European funding to farmers and livestock breeders. Essentially, Greece got a fine of almost €500 million because the European prosecutor recognized thousands of cases in which the farmer or the breeder had declared much more land or much more animals, many more animals, than he or she had. And this seemed to happen with the help of a couple of ministers from the current Greek government, which according to the prosecutor was acting kind of like a mafia gang in this scandal. Nobody, of course, went to jail. But what's interesting in our case is that in 2021, the European Union suggested to the current Greek government to use Arachne for OPKP. They had seen that there was an upward trend, and they had asked, kindly, maybe Arachne could be useful in identifying those fraudulent cases, and the Greek government denied it, they rejected this suggestion. Then the EU tried to do it mandatory for all the European countries, but guess what? 2 countries voted against it, and they obstructed their use, and those countries was Hungary and Greece. And now, after the scandal was revealed by the European prosecutor, the Greek government has accepted its use and has started using it for OPKP. So I believe Arachne is very useful, and it could be become mandatory and used for all European Union countries. Thank you for your time and for your invitation again.
Thanks a lot, Manos. Manos is the only one that is not a member of our team. One of the professors, like Dr. Kafterannis, is a member of our board, and also Alexandros is working as one of our team of researchers. So double thank you, Manos, because you are not obliged or forced you are not dragged here to this meeting, rather than demonstrating your willingness and to continue our cooperation since the Open Government Partnership and the Mayor House. So once again, thanks a lot for your insights. And again, with no further delay, as we are moving up, I will give the floor to Associate Professor Dr. Kafterannis Dimitrios. Dimitrios specializes in the protection of whistleblowers in the EU banking and financial sector. He's, as I said, an associate professor at the University of Coventry, UK, and also he's a member of the Center for Resilience in Business and Society. Dimitrios?
Thank you, Angele. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, and thanks everyone for participating. So in corruption, because I was thinking how to start the conversation. So corruption is a theme that, as lawyers at least, we have a very broad understanding what is corruption. And also corruption was a starting point, according to my research, on whistleblowing. So we understood that in order to find corruption, we need information. So that's how we started with UNCAC, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. So today I will focus my presentation on something I'm doing research on these years, because this need to protect the market, this need to have information in order to investigate and prosecute, has led to some duties to report, mostly in the business sector, and then some rights to report. So just to start, for me, the duty to report is what I call a formal mandatory obligation. So the employees are obliged by law, regulation, contract, or internal policy to report specific types of wrongdoings, for instance, money laundering. And here we have the idea of compliance driven. We want to have our organization complying with the law, and we put these obligations to report as part of the risk management systems. So this is within the organization, within the employees, and the organization has to ensure that this system is working, because you want to demonstrate this good image that I'm respecting the law. At the same time, and in recent years, especially with the whistleblowing directive. Oh, sorry. Wait, I will mute it. Okay, thanks. So now with the whistleblowing directive, especially before we had it in the banking and financial sector with whistleblowing provisions, but now we have a new voluntary act, what I call a right to report. So driven by ethics, by transparency, we have another layer, if I can put it in that way, where you can report something, but you're not obliged to do that. So the law doesn't oblige you. The law is there to guide you and protect you, but you're not obliged. So in some way, whistleblowing is the second mechanism that comes when internal compliance fails. So we need another mechanism that can help the individual, often with personal risk, to report something. So when we go now for the business and governance perspective on that, so when we have a duty to report, we design duties to report in order to reduce legal liability. In some legal systems, it is even written in the law that if you have compliance and is working, you can have a sanction, your sanction being weakened. And then we have if we have a failure to implement that, we can have enforcement actions. So when it comes to organization, this is something internal. The regulators expect businesses to have reporting channels for these duties to report something. At the same time, we go to whistleblowing, where we have, when internal channels fail, we open the door to the whistleblower either to report internally again or to go to the authorities. So what we have with whistleblowing, and I think businesses, if they are smart, they need to think that, if I promote whistleblowing, I will avoid reputational harm, I will avoid market instability, shareholder issues. So what we have is increased regulatory scrutiny, so another level of protection for the business, for the market, for the economy. What we see, not as a legal scholar, but reading mostly people from business and finance, if a business has both mechanisms working, it has a long-term strategy that ensures that risks are minimized for exposure. So instead of demonizing it and making like tick a box exercise, we really need to rethink how to organize these duties to report, right to reports internally, and how to make them effective. And that brings me to the cultural point. So with a duty to report, we want to create this compliance culture. So as part of the compliance, every employee can report. And as I say, we have seen that many times, because unfortunately, once we have less scandals, then we have even more coming. It's not be a tick the box exercise, but it should be something you cultivate inside your company. Especially for whistleblowing, because we go outside this legal obligation to report and we go to something that is more voluntary, a speak up culture. What we see is that when it comes to whistleblowing, normally we have issues that are deeper on the organizational system arrangement. And what we see mostly with whistleblowing reports is leadership misconduct, manipulation of financial reporting, toxic culture, illegalities. Of course, there are differences when it comes to duty to report, to whistleblowing. So duty to report is more institutionalized. You have a compliance department, HR, or a department inside the company. You have mandatory reporting. There are training obligations. And we observe that most of the times it's mostly for lower, let's say, issues. With whistleblowing, we change. We go to confidentiality. We talk about anonymity. It should be independent, at least. Unfortunately, I don't think it's happening in many EU countries that the persons who receive whistleblowing reports should be independent, autonomous, and not being part of any other department in order to be able to exercise their function. And we need to ensure anti-retaliation, that the employee is protected. So what is interesting when we continue this, parallel between duty to report and whistleblowing, duty to report is part of your contract. So, if you're doing money laundering, your duties, when you have to report internally or report to the financial prosecutor in order to avoid sanctions, probably internally. It may be part of your KPIs when you work in a company that you have to do it. Of course, an issue, I'm talking now also because of money laundering research I'm doing, we see over-reporting. So instead of this mechanism really to target the problems, employees, they fear, so they start bombarding the authorities with everything. And we have seen that with suspicious transaction reports. And also the fear of, creating more work. So sometimes you are conflicted, so to report or not, maybe better to report, maybe better for the money laundering, for instance, to send it to the prosecutor and let them see what they want to do. When it comes to whistleblowing, it's very interesting because it comes mostly from an ethical perspective. Most of the whistleblowers I talk to, they will do it again, even though their careers were destroyed, their families, their personal life, they still want to do it. And now what we started having, but it's still a thing in its infancy, we have protection. And what is more interesting, especially for the business sector, is on the other side of the Atlantic, we have financial rewards. And financial rewards, they give another perspective. We see more and more whistleblowers. If you check the statistics of the Securities and Exchange Commission, we see more and more EU, let's say, whistleblowers to report to the United States. And we have seen cases where whistleblowers from Europe were protected and awarded financial rewards in the United States. I'm not saying I'm in favor or not. This is a big discussion to be done about financial rewards. But what we have here, and recently in Greece, we had a very interesting case for the Novartis scandal, where the two whistleblowers also reported to the US authorities and they were granted awards, which are now seized by the Anti-Money Laundering Authority in collaboration with the Swiss authorities, considered as tax evasion and money laundering, where it's actually these people. So while Novartis scandal, as far as I know, is not really quite thoroughly investigated in Greece, the United States has already imposed a sanction, and I think there was a deferred prosecution agreement with Novartis. But what we see is that these people, they are punished in Europe, they are protecting the United States. So just to, I think I'm okay with time, just to come to the conclusion, and why I'm doing this research also myself, it's interesting to see that we try more and more to impose obligations. So obligations to report, right to report. We created the whistleblowing directive. It's not working a lot. My final point would be that we need also to change culture, and that's something the law cannot really dictate. We can legislate on something, but changing culture comes from the government and the authorities, and also the private sector. So if we really believe in this change, that we want to fight corruption and make the society healthy, clean, safe, we need to adopt, we need to make this work rather than the ticking box exercise. Because what we see more and more is that we have lower standards when it comes to rule of law and public trust, because all these mechanisms are failing. I mean, not everywhere, but we have seen a lot of examples, even in countries like the United Kingdom, that whistleblowing reporting is failing, despite the fact they have a law from 1998. So thank you very much, and I would be happy to do the discussion. I'm looking forward to the discussion later.
Thank you, Dimitri. And it's really important what you shared about the culture, because you see more and more in social media, more people anonymously, they start sharing about the farming scandal, about the sessions they are overlooking, they are publishing photos and all the material that is relevant to cases. So I think that the culture is shifting from self-blaming or from pointing the finger to actually care for disclosure of any irregularity, of any fraud, of anything that can of anyone that wants to step up and do it with integrity, with cautiousness, and as you said, choose the same way again and again, regardless of disadvantages, of setbacks or whatever. Excellent. So we will continue with Dr. Sarrής, dear Alexandros, who is also senior lecturer in Erasmus University College, Netherlands, and he will share with us in the last speech of this session regarding of the decommissioning practices worldwide, but also in Europe and Greece. Alexandra?
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Angelos. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here today with you, with experts in the field of transparency, of the commissioning processes, that you understand the importance of those things. This field is evolving rapidly, influenced not only by technical sophistications, but also by societal expectations. And the work that has to be undertaken shall be conducted with integrity, rigor, and most importantly, transparency. So in that regard, today we'll try to say a few things about the role of transparency in decommissioning, with particular emphasis on development challenges and opportunities for Greece, a country that the last few years undergoes a profound transformation of its industrial and energy landscape. Now, I would like to say a few things about decommissioning on the global level. Around the world, decommissioning has become a strategic priority. The reasons are diverse. On the one hand, the retirement of aging thermal power plants, the phase out of lignite, the restructuring of chemical and heavy industrial facilities, and in some regions, the complex task of nuclear decommissioning. What unites these efforts is the recognition that decommissioning is not simply an engineering task. It is mainly a governance challenge, an ethical commitment, and a social process. As such, transparency is not an accessory, it is a prerequisite. Transparency ensures technical credibility because data methodologies are verifiable, regulatory compliance because procedures withstand scrutiny, community trust because citizens feel informed rather than marginalized, investor confidence because financial planning is visible and responsible, and international collaboration because knowledge is openly exchanged. These principles apply everywhere, but in Greece, they take on particular urgency. Greece, the last few years, is undergoing one of the most rapid and ambitious energy transitions in Europe. Within just a few years, the country has committed to a near complete phase-out of lignite-fired power generation. Several regions have begun large-scale industrial restructuring. New policies aligning with the EU environmental standards demand EU environmental standards demand improved waste management, remediation, and site development mechanisms, and investment is flowing into renewable energy, hydrogen, circular economy facilities, and environmental restoration projects. Yet, behind each new investment lies the need to responsibly manage what came before it. Dozens of facilities, some with decades of operational history, must now be safely decommissioned. This transition places Greece in a position where the success of decommissioning projects directly impacts environmental quality, community well-being, economic development, international trust, compliance with EU frameworks. And the center of all this question is the following: can the process be trusted? Now, transparency matters a lot in Greece. We all know that. We all hearing stories. And I have a few reasons listing here. Number one, that public trust and social acceptance shall be there. Many regions affected by decommissioning, such as Western Macedonia and Megalopolis, carry the legacy of environmental burdens and long-term economic dependence on fossil-based industries. Communities want assurance that new activities will be cleaner, safer, and future-oriented. Transparency in Greece is not a bureaucracy formality. It is the basis for community acceptance on the transition. Number two, we have complexity of environmental liabilities. Older facilities may lack comprehensive historical documentation. This makes it essential to disclose baseline contamination data, risk assessment methodologies, remediation strategies, long-term monitoring plans. Without transparency, uncertainty becomes resistance. With transparency, uncertainty becomes manageable. Reason number three, alignment with the European norms. The European Union places high emphasis on open consultation, environmental reporting, public access information, procurement transparency, life cycle waste management. Greece's credibility depends on demonstrating full compliance with these principles, not merely in theory, but mainly in practice. Number four, economic transition and redevelopment. In Greece, just transition regions demonstrate that decommissioning is not an end. It is the beginning of redevelopment. Transparent planning ensures that decommissioned sites becomes assets for new industries, for renewables, for research and innovation hubs, for ecological restoration. Poorly managed decommission in contracts becomes a liability. some of the key problems that Greece is facing at the moment are the following. Number one is institutional fragmentation. Multiple bodies share responsibility: environmental authorities, energy operator, regional administration, development agencies, and regulators. Coordination is on a process of improving, but overlapping mandates still creates delays and ambiguity. Reason number two, historical data. Challenge number two, historical data. Incomplete records from older facilities make environmental baselining difficult. This can increase uncertainty in cost forecasting, risk assessment, and procurement. Number three, procurement and contracting complexity. Large public tenders require clear oversight to ensure fair competition, realistic pricing, avoidance of cost overturns, and verifiable performance metrics. The absence of transparency here risks not only inefficiency but reputational damage. We have communication gaps with local communities. Technical reports do not automatically translate into understanding. Without targeted communications, even well-managed projects can face opposition or misunderstanding, and we see that a lot within the field of renewables. Integration with broader transition policies. Decommissioning must align with land use planning, industrial development, and energy strategy. Lack of visibility in planning can prevent this integration. Now, there are some positives that someone has to mention at this moment, that Greece has made notable progress in the recent years in digital environmental licensing system. Now, there are platforms that increase visibility, accelerate decision-making, provide public access to critical documents. We have publication of the environmental impact assessments. Now more documents are now published and they are accessible. We have alignment with the EU Just Transition Mechanism, which includes transparent consultation procedures, socioeconomic impact assessments, and regional transition plans that integrate decommissioning with redevelopment. We try to improve the waste management oversight, and there's growing on the use of independent auditors that they operate. Some operators use third-party auditors in verification processes, strengthening credibility. These steps have laid the foundation for what could become a best practice model for the region in the future. Now, the Transparency Center model for Greece and beyond. To further strengthen transparency in decommissioning, someone can think of the five following pillars. Pillar number one, predictive transparency. Disclosure must begin before decommissioning activities start, with plans, timelines, and cost estimates, expected types of and volumes of waste, risk management strategies, remediation techniques under consideration. Early information reduces speculation and support informed debate. Pillar number two, open environmental data. Real-time or periodic publications of soil and groundwater monitoring results, air quality measurements, waste characterization data, progress report on remediation. This empowers both experts and citizens. Pillar number three, participatory transparency. Community are not passive observers. Mechanisms shall include structured local dialogue, technical briefings for residents, public hearings with clear outcomes, citizens-friendly summaries of technical reports. This transforms social acceptance from a challenge into a collaborative process. Pillar number four, contractual transparency. Procurement must be open, competitive, performance-based, and auditable. Key contracts should include clear deliverables, environmental obligations, and monitoring systems. Pillar number five, continuous oversight and post-project monitoring. Transparency does not end once dismantling is complete. Long-term monitoring and aftercare must be documented and published and reviewed by independent experts. Only then can decommission sites be safely monitored. Now, I come to my conclusions, because I see that the time is also flying. As we confront the decommissioning challenges of the coming decades, transparency remains a very strong tool. It bridges the gap between technical complexity and public understanding. It transforms risk into responsibility, and it allows the past to be managed in a way that protects the future. Greece's journey illustrates both the difficulties and some possibilities. With robust transparency, decommissioning becomes more than dismantling. It becomes renewal, restoration, and maybe can be used as reinvestment in a sustainable future. Thank you very much for your attention, and of course, I look forward to the discussion that will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarrís. So, thank you all the speakers, and thank you for the ones that are still here with us by the end of the day. So this is a private session. This is a closed event for the members. So if anyone would like to take the speech and share any question or any comment, please do so. Otherwise, I will make a question to all three speakers, and we can wrap it up, take it from here. I also want to underline that this is a recorded session for after, but this is an opportunity for you to make a statement or to ask a question that you would like to include or not in the video. But this is up to you. So is there any question or any statement, any remark that would like to be given, to shared to the rest of us from the participants? I will start feeling kind of lonely, but in any case. So I would like to ask all of you, the three of you, you shared about Mano shared the case about the Arachne in the EU and all these the setups. Also, Dimitri shared his view and his marks regarding whistleblowing platforms and the rule of law and the law in general, how it falters. And also, Alexandros shared a lot about the digitalization and other, but I would like to make a question to all of you. Like, if you could point out one major challenge that is coming up in the next months, or if you are any setback or anything that our viewers and our participants would like to hear from you in the next 6 months, if you would like to take a step, or if you would like to make an intervention to pass a law or something, what it would be, or even a prediction or something that is coming, or a challenge as I shared already. Manos?
So if I could pass any legislation or any law or something like that, it would be up to me, right? That's my understanding. Well, I think, as I also said in my short talk, that I think the use of Arachne or related tools like machine learning tools that can detect frauds more efficiently should be mandatory for all the European Union countries. And in fact, maybe it should be applied from the European bodies too, because when it comes to local governments, there might be political conflicts that could actually lead to the non-efficient use of those tools. That would be my suggestion.
Great. Dimitri, if you have any insight or any remark, any statement or any proposal or anything that you feel that it should be shared, or any insight, any challenge that you see in the next 6 months?
So you mean in the same direction if I want to propose something?
If you could pass any law recommendation, or if you see any challenge, or if you want to see something coming and that you're predicting that it will affiliate us all.
Yeah, just to say what is coming. I think what is coming is new technologies and AI. Quite, it changes a lot of things. So I think, doing research now, we see that, criminals are quite smart. So things are changing very quickly. So if we cannot tackle the traditional corruption, let's say, how can we then move to the AI-enabled? What I'm waiting personally is the evaluation of the whistleblowing directive, which is coming very soon, and which I think, unfortunately, Greece is not really doing excellent. That's my personal opinion, especially with the transposition. So if I could change something, what I would do is first to have a whistleblowing authority, independent, impartial, autonomous, where no one can really, you know, like a prosecutor, but without the Ministry of like the public office, really an independent authority. That would be the first step. And then I think when I talked about change of culture, as we say in Greek, the fish smells from the head. So we need to change the culture from the government, okay, from the authorities. And also, we should not forget the European Union. I mean, we had another scandal now with the College of Europe. We have Qatargate. So on the one hand, we gave whistleblowing to the member states and say, you know, find the solution. But at the same time, so what I would impose is independent authorities that can be these whistleblowing authorities where people can really go. And then the people working in this authority can ideally would even investigate the scandals. I think that's what we're missing. Independence. That's from me.
Alexandre, the same question falls for you too.
For me, there is a challenge that it appears today in Greece. What is the challenge? The challenge is the new deal that the government seems to be keen in proceeding with, and has to do with the import of US LNG transported from Greece directly to the north, which is a huge investment both in infrastructure and changes and on the infrastructure and for Greece. And on the other hand, it changes the energy balance of our country. And what I see at the moment is that this investment, or let me put it that way, that whatever transparency exists in this investment is very little, is not very visible. How does it work? What are the purposes in that regard? How this transition is going to happen? Nobody is consulted. For example, the local societies that they hear one day, you are about to get a terminal importing, let's say, gas in Volos. Who did they ask them if they want one in the port of Volos, something like this? The local communities have never been consulted. The same goes, for example, for Alexandroupolis. They have the FSRU over there already that works, but it is one thing to import some minimum amount of gas just for complementary purposes. Another thing to become a hub. This transition is not something that has been discussed a lot in Greece in terms of what does it mean and in terms how should that work. And it is a project that is trying to be, that there is an effort to be presented as a life changer. And if this is the case, then I think that we need to further discuss it a little bit and understand what would that mean for the country in general. And of course, for the local communities that they will be directly affected from the impacts of this transformation. So for me, it's not for the next 6 months, for the next couple of years, but this discussion will be emerging more and more and more and more, and it's directly linked, of course, with the idea that Greece that can start be exploitation, you know, powerhouse on oil and gas on the global market, which is again something that nobody has discussed with anyone, and is directly linked with this agreement of energy transition. So anyhow, this is something that has to be discussed, and the transparency that surrounds these decisions and these ideas are not very, you know, on the public attendance and visibility. Other than, you know, from the announcements, nobody knows the substance. And I stop it here.
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you all. And unless there is one last chance for any comment or any question from the public.
I have a question, Mr. Dr. Kaskanis.
Yes. Yeah.
Zaris Dimitriadis.
Yeah,
Hi, everybody. Hi, Alexandros. Very interesting, let's say, speech. Interesting seminar. Don't forget that today we celebrate the 9th of December, which is the day of anti-corruption celebration by United Nations. A question maybe to all of you. I get the feeling, which I share in a bit, that as a country we need to do a lot more so that the whistleblowing culture will prevail. However, if you have information or knowledge from your experience, how solid is the whistleblowing culture in other European countries? I mean, I understand from Dimitris, sorry, I don't see your surname, but I hope you allow me the Dimitris expression.
Yes, of course.
Sorry, Dimitris. What is the experience from other countries? I mean, if we are about to update the law, the legislation, how solid is the culture? What are the results from other European countries? What is the experience using the whistleblowing? Correctly, you mentioned the scandal. The recent one is in the College of Europe. The previous deputy vice chairman, Mogherini, she was our foreign minister, and she was also caught in a scandal. But was this through the whistleblowing channels, or it was something different? Are the Europeans trust this law, legislation, the channels to file their whistleblowing, or it's still a way to go? And I'm asking this in comparison with Greece, because to blame our country all the time sometimes is not make good. But anyway, thank you very much. But anyway, thank you for the excellent seminar, excellent celebration, let's say. Thank you.
Thanks. Dimitri, I think it's your field, so...
Yes, thank you, Aris. Yeah, Ari. Just to say, okay, I'm not saying, I'm not accusing also Greece. There are many countries facing issues. At this moment, the transposition was not very successful of the directive. But there are best cases, best examples that we can follow. Because personally, I follow Belgium, Luxembourg, France mostly. And we have seen, like, for instance, in France, the French ombudsman is the competent authority. They have extensive powers. They can even certify that the whistleblower, when they blow the whistle and they have some criteria, is a whistleblower and provide interim protection. Then the French ombudsman is an independent authority, so it's not governed, by any governmental department. For instance, in Belgium, we see for the public sector, really good protective measures. So you have financial support, they give you a lawyer, they give you therapies, they give you a coach. So of course, I'm not saying that the other European Union countries, they are doing well and everything is perfect. We have many issues now. In Slovakia, it's a second attempt to close down the whistleblowing office there, which is truly independent, and they want to put it in one of the ministries. But we have best practices that we can look. I think the most important problem for Greece is the transposition of the directive and the division of, you can be protected under the directive only when you protect the relevant EU law areas. I think that was the worst that happened in Greece. Of course, the country was not obliged, but I will not go into details. So yeah, then going to the European Union, I'm not sure if the scandal, I just read, we have a lot of information. I just read there were 4 people who reported about the issues with the College of Europe. So were they whistleblowers? They were witnesses, protected witnesses? I don't know, but someone gave the information. I'm just saying that because the system, when you're a public servant and you want to blow the whistle, is quite obsolete in the European Union. We go back to staff regulation rules in 2004. So you cannot point your finger when you're not doing things properly. That's my point. So just to conclude and leave, because I think there are other questions, I'm not saying Greece is the worst student, but if we want to change the law, there are many opportunities to go around and see. I know there is also a network of whistleblowing authorities working very, very a lot on this issue. There are also NGOs like Transparency. So, if you want to change the law, you can, and you can take best practices from other countries. Thank you. Sorry for.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this gives us, Angelos, a small remark, a very good opportunity as Transparency International to cooperate both public and private sector, because at the end of the day, this requires a lot of awareness and, in my point, a lot of training of people to understand what are the wrongdoings, so they know exactly when it is the time to report something. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks. There is one more question stated in the chat for Emmanuήλ Αυγερινός. What fraud cases have been discovered through Arachne? I'm especially interested in the energy sector, and I'm also concerned what happens to the data an entity would upload in Arachne. Where does it go?
Okay, so I'll start with the latter question. They will be uploaded on a European server that they all comply with GDPR. Sorry, ChatGPT is my favorite, so I'm confused constantly with that. Apparently, so yeah, any data will be uploaded. They will go to European servers, and everything is covered and everything is done legally. Now, regarding specific cases, I'm not familiar with any energy sector fraud detection, but I do recall there was a big scandal in Spain with Rajoy government that Arachne was used to detect some irregular payments from some contracts to some of the ministers there. And actually, in the end, the government fell because of that. The beginning took place with Arachne. I do recall that for sure, but unfortunately, I'm not familiar with any energy-related topics. You can send me an email, and I will be very happy to get back to you after I look for it a little bit. To answer the next question, right now, every member state has used Arachne at least once. 21 are using it in many projects, and the rest of them are using them in a pilot way. And as I told you, Greece was kind of forced to use it after the scandal of OPKP. It's a decision of every country. It's not mandatory. As I told you, the European Union tried to do it mandatory, but Hungary and Greece opposed that, and therefore it could not happen. So it's up to every member state to use it or not, and it's free of charge.
Okay. Is there any other question or mark? Otherwise, we can call it today. It's 5 o'clock. I don't want to. Anna Giotti, you raised your hand. Please. I think you are unmuted, but I cannot hear you.
We cannot hear you.
Yeah.
So you need to give authorization to Teams to use access to your to the headphones. Otherwise, you cannot speak. Otherwise, you have to unplug it and try the computer device. You have to either to give permission to the yeah, it's you either unplug it or you can even write it down to the chat. Sorry for this, but it's Teams is blocking. So please take a moment to write it down. It's fine. Thank you so much. It's fine. Thank you. So thank you for sharing your positive vibes. So thank you all for sharing your insights. Thank you all for your time today. The meetup is recorded. It will be uploaded and promoted via YouTube and Facebook and other platforms. And the next days, you will also receive the video if you want to share it with your colleagues, other ones, intro level experts, etc., or friends that could not be here with us. And wish you a fruitful anti-corruption day and all the best of luck to your continuous efforts in combating corruption and promoting integrity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Angelos.
Bye-bye.
Bye.